They claim life is woven from fleeting moments. Small, seemingly insignificant instances that feel trivial at first. Like the lingering gaze someone holds, a heartbeat too long. Or the brief touch of their fingers against yours as you hand over the salt. Minor, innocent gestures. Until they're not. I once believed I was a virtuous woman, a devoted wife, a mother who understood her role. But now, doubt clouds my certainty. It began on an unremarkable Tuesday. No fanfare, no drama. Just me in the kitchen, preparing dinner while the children bickered over cartoons in the adjacent room. The same routine, the same quiet from my husband. He'd been distant for months, perhaps years if I'm truthful. His body returned home each night, but his heart wandered elsewhere. Maybe to his work, maybe to another. I never dared ask, too afraid of what I might learn. Then Marcus arrived. My brother-in-law, my husband's younger sibling, always a presence in our lives. He carried a playful charm, the kind that coaxes laughter when you least expect it, the kind who recalls your favorite snack without prompting. He noticed things. He noticed me. The chipped nail polish I hadn't found time to mend. The nervous habit of twisting my wedding ring. He saw me. And for the first time in ages, I felt visible. I recall that day vividly. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting a perfect glow on the table. The fridge's hum was the only sound between us. Then he spoke. A single sentence. Soft, reckless, perilous. I have a wish, just one, and I hope you'll say yes. That was all. Yet it shifted my entire world. I laughed, shook my head, called him foolish. But my heart didn't join in the laughter. It pounded fiercely, as if trying to silence everything else. I should have refused. I should have asked him to leave, declared it wrong. But I didn't. Now I lie awake at night, wondering when it all changed. Was it the moment he spoke, or the moment I stayed? Since that day, nothing feels the same. Not my home, not my heart, not my marriage. Some say temptation crashes in like a tempest. Mine arrived softly, like a breeze, until it grew into a gale I couldn't withstand. And the worst part? Sometimes, when I reflect, I'm unsure if I regret it, or merely regret being swept away by the emotion. If you've ever stood at the brink of a boundary you never imagined crossing, if you've ever yearned so deeply for connection that you sought it in the wrong place, then perhaps you'll understand. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, where secrets unravel and every story leaves its mark. I'm in my early 30s, married for 7 years. We have 2 children, both under 10, who are the heart of my world. For a long time, I thought that was enough. My husband, David, isn't a bad man. He's just elsewhere. Always preoccupied, always exhausted. His job demands long hours, frequent travel. He claims it's for us, for our future. But what about the present? When he's home, he's physically there, but absent. He eats in silence, scrolls through his phone, responds in fragments. Sometimes I speak just to break the quiet, to hear my own voice, to feel I still exist. But it's like talking to a void. Our dinners, once filled with laughter, are now marked by the faint clink of forks, the sound of juice being poured, and the occasional pass the salt. That's all. No eye contact, no warmth, just 2 adults coexisting, like polite strangers raising children under the same roof. Even car rides feel heavier now, filled with engine hum and radio static. Once I asked about his day. Fine, he replied. That was the entire exchange. Eventually I stopped asking. stopped trying. I told myself this is what marriage becomes over time. The butterflies fade, and you settle into survival. But deep down, I longed to feel chosen, to be noticed. That's when Marcus began appearing more often. David's younger brother, recently divorced, said he needed company, that his empty apartment was driving him mad. So, he dropped by, bringing trinkets for the kids, fixing leaky faucets, or installing shelves. Tasks David never had time for. Marcus was different. Not just charming, but present. He listened when I spoke, remembered minor details I mentioned in passing. He'd joke when I looked weary. Once, he cooked dinner while I rested on the couch, just so I could have a moment to myself. At first, I thought nothing of it. He was family, stepping in to fill the gaps David left behind. But those gaps began to feel like doorways, and I didn't realize I was opening them. Marcus made me laugh when I'd forgotten how. He noticed when I changed my hair or wore a new dress. His compliments were subtle but sincere, and I began to anticipate his visits more than I should have. The kids loved him. His playful, warm energy was what I once hoped David would bring home, but never did. One night, Marcus stayed late. The children were asleep. We sat on the porch, just talking. The air was cool, the sky still. Without intending to, I confessed I felt invisible. He didn't say much, just looked at me with a softness I hadn't felt in years. Not pity, but understanding. That look lingered. It said, "I see you. I've always seen you." I hadn't realized how much I needed to be seen until then. David never noticed my tears in the shower or the nights I stayed up folding laundry, eyes wet. But Marcus did. He saw me in ways David had forgotten. Slowly, that quiet acknowledgement became something more, something dangerous, something I couldn't yet name. But I felt it growing in the spaces between our silences. Even then, I knew I was teetering too close to the edge. It was a Thursday. David had left that morning for another business trip. A 3-day conference he didn't really need to attend, but insisted on. He barely said goodbye, just kissed the kids, gave me a distracted, "I'll call you tonight," and left. As his car vanished down the street, I felt relief. Not sadness, not longing, just relief. Like I could breathe in my own home again. That afternoon, the hallway curtain rod fell. The screws had been loose for weeks. David promised to fix it, but never did. I'd stopped reminding him, so I texted Marcus. "Any chance you could help with something around the house?" He arrived within the hour, toolbox in hand, smile familiar and easy. He teased that I only broke things when David was away. I laughed, too hard perhaps, but it felt good. He fixed the rod quickly, but didn't leave. Instead, he asked if I had tea. We sat at the kitchen table, as we had many times before, but this time felt different. The light through the window was soft, golden. The house was unusually quiet. No cartoons, no footsteps. Just us. We talked about trivial things at first. TV shows, childhood memories. Then he asked if I was happy. I hesitated, sipped my tea slowly and said, "I don't know." He didn't push, just nodded, as if he already knew. As he stood to leave, he turned to me, hand resting on the chair, eyes locked on mine. "You know," he said with a shy smile, "I've always wondered what it'd be like if we had met first." I froze. My heart skipped, landing heavier. I smiled nervously, laughed it off because I didn't know what else to do. But his eyes didn't laugh. They stayed on me, soft, steady. too honest. He left after that. No lingering goodbye, just a quiet door closing. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, David's side cold and untouched, replaying those words. If we had met first. It wasn't what he said, but how he said it. Like it wasn't a jest. Like he meant it. Worse, a part of me wished we had. I began imagining things I shouldn't have. Conversations that never happened. Moments that didn't exist. I told myself it was just loneliness, just curiosity. But something had shifted. Not because Marcus said something forbidden, but because I didn't want to forget it. I held it like a secret I wasn't ready to confess, even to myself. That was the night I stopped seeing him the same way. And perhaps the night I stopped seeing myself the same way. I tried to dismiss it, to forget his words, to convince myself it was just Marcus being Marcus. But the truth, I replayed it endlessly, like a melody I didn't choose but couldn't escape. Standing in the kitchen, I'd recall his gaze. Passing the hallway curtain, I'd think of his hands fixing it, his voice, his smile. That damn sentence. If we had met first. I began questioning myself. Was I lonely or craving danger? Was I missing love or just being seen? It's hard to describe how you can live with someone, sleep beside them, and still feel utterly alone. David wasn't cruel or abusive, but we were bound only by duty. Bills, school runs, groceries, schedules. Our 7th anniversary passed weeks earlier. He forgot, only realizing when I mentioned it the next day. "Oh, sorry. Been swamped," he said. No card, no embrace, no effort. Sometimes I'd stand before the mirror at night, searching for what he no longer saw, what he once loved. He used to trace my freckles, call me beautiful with messy hair. Now, he barely looked at me, but Marcus noticed everything. I started dressing with more care. Not drastically, just a touch of color, lip gloss, even on days I stayed home. I told myself it was for me, to feel good again, but I knew I did it for Marcus's visits, for his quiet compliments. "That color suits you," or "You look rested today." Rested. I hadn't felt rested in years. But when he said it, I believed it for a moment. I began anticipating his visits, inventing reasons to call him, fixing a picture frame, changing a light bulb, freeing a stuck drawer. Each task felt innocent, but the flutter in my stomach when his car arrived betrayed me. The silence after he left felt heavier than it should. I told myself it was nothing. Just tea, just talk, just Marcus. But something was shifting, something I didn't want to admit. Lying beside David at night, I'd think of Marcus's gaze across the kitchen table, the way he saw through my invisibility, and the guilt crept in. A whisper I couldn't silence. I hadn't done anything wrong, not physically. But emotionally, I was somewhere I shouldn't be. And the worst part? I didn't want to leave. It was just tea. Until it wasn't. After that night, when he spoke those words, something changed in me, in him. Marcus visited more. Not abruptly, but naturally, as if it made sense. He'd say he was nearby, dropping off something for the kids, checking the shelves he'd installed. But we both knew it wasn't about shelves or kids. It was about something unspoken, something we circled but didn't touch. He helped more. Bath time, story time. The kids adored him, begging for one more story, one more dinner. When the house quieted, he'd linger. We'd watch movies. Not romantic ones, just familiar, comforting films. but his shoulder would brush mine. His laugh would echo in my ears. I felt myself leaning in, not physically, but emotionally. Each evening became a test I wasn't sure I wanted to pass. Then came the night of the storm. Thunder rumbled, rain pounded, and the lights flickered out. The kids squealed with delight. I lit candles. Marcus helped carry them. After tucking the kids in, we sat on the living room floor. Blankets, tea, candles flickering between us. It should have been awkward, but it was warm, too comfortable. We talked effortlessly about everything and nothing. I shared a dream of running towards something freer. He didn't laugh, just nodded. I get that. A pause stretched too long. He brushed something from my cheek, a crumb, lint, or nothing. His fingers lingered, and I let them. I didn't move, didn't speak, just looked at him. He looked back, holding something unsaid. My phone buzzed. David. I knew. I ignored it. That buzz felt like a warning, but I stayed frozen, longing, terrified of what I wanted, and more terrified of losing it. We didn't kiss, didn't touch again, but we didn't need to. Everything had already shifted. Just before he left, he looked at me softly and said, I still have that wish, you know. I didn't ask what he meant. I knew. 3 days after the storm, the air still felt heavy, like the sky hadn't healed. Neither had I. David was away again. Another meeting, another hotel. The kids were at my sister's, a supposed break. But I lit candles again, not for light, but for courage, or something I couldn't name. Marcus came to return keys I didn't recall giving him. He hesitated at the door, but I stepped aside, and he entered like he belonged. We sat in silence, the quiet thick, alive. I poured wine. He barely sipped. Then his voice low, almost afraid. For just one night, pretend we're the ones married. Everything stopped. Breath, thought, time. I looked at him. He wasn't joking. He meant it. My heart thundered. The room felt small, walls closing in. I wanted to say no, but I didn't. I said nothing, staring at the man I shouldn't want but did. He crossed the room slowly, giving me time to stop him. I didn't. His hand cupped my face, warm, too tender for what we were about to do. Then he kissed me, and I let him. It wasn't soft or gentle. It was everything we hadn't said. Every lonely night, every lingering glance. Pain and comfort intertwined. It was wrong, but it felt like home. His breath trembled. Mine stopped. I didn't know where I ended and he began. In that moment, there was no David, no guilt, just skin, heat, and years of longing finding voice. When it ended, when silence returned, I couldn't look at him or myself. That night rewrote everything, and nothing would feel whole again. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, because the next twist changes everything. The morning after, I couldn't meet his gaze or my own. I told Marcus I wasn't feeling well, needed time. He nodded and left. No hug, no promises, just a door clicking shut. The house felt colder than it had in months. When David returned, everything looked unchanged. Furniture in place, kids excited, dinner simmering. But something pressed against my ribs. He hugged me tightly, longer than usual, and I wanted to vanish into it, to feel forgiven for something he didn't know. But I couldn't relax, because I knew. I tried to act normal, laughing at his jokes, responding warmly, touching him without flinching inside. But it exhausted me. David noticed, staring longer, asking if I was okay. I lied. Just tired? He nodded, perhaps wanting to believe me. Then came Sunday, dinner, a family tradition. Marcus was invited as always. David was glad to see him. The kids rushed into his arms. But when our eyes met across the table, I froze. He didn't smile, didn't greet me, didn't sit beside me as usual. He sat opposite, ice on his plate, like I was a stranger, like nothing had happened. That hurt most. I kept my head down, faked smiles, laughed on cue, but my hands trembled beneath the table. His fleeting glances burned. After dinner, everyone watched TV. I excused myself, claiming I needed a shower. I locked the bathroom door, turned on the water, and collapsed against the tile, sobbing. The water drowned my cries. I'd given in to something I didn't understand, and I couldn't undo it. I thought I was lonely, seeking comfort, but I hadn't grasped betrayal's weight until I carried it in silence. The water turned cold. I stayed, hoping it could wash away what I'd done. But it couldn't. What I broke was inside me, cracked beyond repair. I once thought I knew myself. Faithful, patient, good. Those labels were my armor until they no longer fit. Now I feel hollow, as if the good parts spilled out. I think about my marriage more now. The ways we drifted, the words we didn't say, the touches we stopped sharing. I tell myself I tried, but perhaps I stopped too soon. Maybe he did too. There's a quiet pain in being invisible, in feeling unseen by someone who once cherished you. I let that pain become something else, pulling me towards something I never thought I'd do. I replay that night constantly. The way he looked at me, how I didn't stop him, how it felt like relief and ruin. I thought we'd talk, that Marcus would return, that we'd make sense of it. But when I texted him asking to meet, he replied, "It was a mistake. I shouldn't have let it happen." He was seeing someone new, someone uncomplicated, single. Then he was gone. No explanation, no apology, no acknowledgement of what he left me with. He moved on. I stayed, alone with guilt, shame, silence. Some days I wonder if I imagined it, if I magnified a moment he forgot. But passing the hallway where he stood, or finding a shirt smelling of his cologne, I know it was real. Some nights his scent lingers in my sheets. Some mornings I wake hoping it was a dream. It wasn't. I am both villain and victim, in a story I never meant to write, carrying the ending alone. Was I wrong for granting a wish I never thought I would? Or was I just a woman, starved for affection, fed the only way she knew? I don't know anymore. I don't know where love blurs into loneliness, how long a heart can go untouched before seeking warmth in forbidden places. I know what I did, that it hurt people, that it changed me. But I also know what it's like to be unseen, to be good and beautiful and forgotten, to cry silently so the kids don't hear, to smile through countless heartbreaks, to ache for something simple, to be noticed, to be chosen. If you've ever been torn between loyalty and loneliness, if you've sat in the dark, wondering how you strayed so far from who you were, share your story. Let's talk, not as judge and jury, but as humans who've made choices we don't know how to bear. If this story touched you, made you feel less alone, or stirred hidden questions, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Here, we don't hide the hard parts. We bring them to light, one story at a time. Sometimes it's not betrayal that breaks us, but the silence that follows, the mirror you can't meet, the nights staring at the ceiling, wondering if you ruined everything, or merely revealed what was already broken. Love, when starved, can drive you to things you swore you'd never do, not because you stopped caring, but because you started fading. You never know someone's hunger until they taste the forbidden.